What's your favorite thing from the 80s/90s? Music. Going to Blockbuster, spending a lot of time picking the right movies and snacks, before heading home to watch it whether it turned out good or bad. Lack of cell phones. Hear me out. Today, not answering a call or text often leads to you owing the caller/texter an explanation as to why you took so long to reply, or why you didn't answer on the first call. There's a sense of entitlement. Before cell phones, a missed call or message didn't regularly carry so much weight. You just call back later, leave a message, or forget about it and move on. Arcades. The porn. It was so much harder to get a hold of as a teenager in the 90s, which made it all the more satisfying. The feeling that things were improving. Cartoons were better in the 90s. Rock music. Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Poison, Queen, AC/DC. I could go on and on. As someone who was not alive in the 80s, if I could go back in time, it would be for rock. For sure would have to be dark, noisy arcades in the early 80s. I felt so at home in those places, and it was always so exciting to scope out and play the new machines. That was a pretty special time. Intimidating, transgressive feeling places for kids at the malls. Namely arcades and music stores. Arcades were dark and if you were young, full of intimidating older kids and teenagers. Always a huge treat to go in, but it always felt like an adventure. Music stores used to be covered with posters and heavy metal was big at the time. I remember staring at the posters wondering what the deal was. What was the deal with the smoking cherub? Why was a zombie all over Iron Maiden posters? Was Poison a band consisting of men or women? Yes, I remember having this debate. MTV, when it played music videos. Kelly Kapowski. Reading actual books and going hunting in the bookstore for the next title. Sometimes disappointing, sometimes I found gems that I thought nobody else knew about. Then internet came, stupid useful thing. There was a sort of innocence growing up in the 80s. There was no social media and the pressure kids have these days to look good all the time. The only virus we think about was from LimeWire. The innocence before 9/11. Hope for the future. In the 90s it seemed like we had finally figured everything out and the world was on a trajectory of improvement and cooperation toward shared goals of peace and prosperity. Now not so much. I miss the pre-9/11 atmosphere of the 90s and early 2000. Everything took a more dark and cynical tone post-9/11 that doesn't really feel like it's let up much at all since. Miami Vice, Magnum P.I., Simon & Simon, Hunter, Greatest American Hero. The price my parents paid for their house back then made it seem not too hard to own something for yourself that was big enough to actually have more than one kid while having enough land to hunt and be away from the city. Music and clothes. Lots of clothing. Polo back when it was all heavy indestructible fabrics. Late 80s surfwear, even if you're thousands of miles from a coast. Particularly my old TNC t-shirts, vintage Op and Quicksilver back when it was good. If you know you know. Would you like to sit in the smokers section, host at restaurants? Being able to smoke anywhere. I don't smoke but all the adults I was around as a kid did and the smell is nostalgic for me. The music of gray skies and for some reason a lot of female punk rock. Fall of the Wall in Germany. Al Bundy. I feel like fast food used to be better back then. I also used to love going to Hollywood Video or Blockbuster and picking out movies based on the cover. Getting some candy and popcorn. Maybe stopping to get a pizza on the way home. It was fun. MTV was actually awesome back then. Rock music and action movies. They knew how to make great action movies in the 80s without relying on tons of CGI. Die Hard, Indiana Jones, Aliens, The Last Boy Scout, Predator etc. Top Gun.